So after waiting an eternity, Evangelion 3.33 was finally released in the States. The third in a series of what they are calling rebuild movies that have the goal of telling some new story with the skeleton of the story of the legendary original TV series and movie. Because remaking stuff is so damn popular these days. I will of course be spoiling parts of the original series, along with the rebuilds. So if you don't want to know about how Karu just keeps getting ahead of himself, then running away might be your best option. Up until now, I had a lot of mixed feelings about the rebuilds. 1.11 was a more or less faithful retelling of the first bunch of episodes of the show. Yeah, that was alright. 2.22 had a lot of subtle changes that mostly served to put Asuka on the back burner, something that's absolutely insane to do with such a great character. This was the one I'd been waiting for. 3.33 was their chance to explain these changes and to fully embrace what I thought was the goal of the rebuilds, to take the building blocks of the original NGE and make it into a new story. There was this booklet that came along with the second movie that I want to read a piece of. It's part of the introduction by chief director Hideaki Anno. In Japan, the first movie is referred to as Prelude, and the second is called Break. The overall concept for the new theatrical edition can be compared to a railroad. In Prelude, trains departing from the same start point will at first run in the same direction, but sooner or later they come across rail switch points, and the familiar scenery starts to change. This is why the introductory part, which tries to start from the same departure point, is called Prelude. Building on that, Part 2, Break, departs, with a few exceptions, from a mere reproduction of past material and proceeds toward a basically new creation. After that, I was completely on board with these new Eva movies being an all-new story, even though your tinfoil hat theorists believe it's a continuation. The thing that gets me is they really didn't seem to do that. Superficially, the world that the movies take place in is very much different than that of the show, but the content of what that story is saying is very much the same. This movie thematically takes the place of episodes 20 through 24 of the show, during which Shinji is stuck inside the Eva for a while, has to deal with the fact that Rei is a clone of his mom, feels lonely because all of his friends have left the devastated Tokyo 3. He then of course befriends and kills Karu. Well, guess what? That's exactly the same thing Shinji goes through in 3.33. Except that in the series, there's a lot of other badass stuff going on, what with the world building and the focusing on the other characters. But the rebuild movies are all about focusing on Shinji, and Rei a little bit, to the detriment of nearly everything else. The train didn't go anywhere new at all. Credit where credit is due. The most effective moments in the movie were when we followed Shinji through the ruins of Nerve. We got to see the destruction caused from the final battle from 2.22 and the other battles we didn't get to see. This was impossible to truly convey back in the old series because the artists simply didn't have enough resources to create new sets. We got this crazy explanation about there being a second backup control room somewhere.
But the chairs are too cramped down there, and the sensors don't operate smoothly.
And this beach representing Tokyo 3, and we were left to imagine the destruction. Of course, imagination is often far more effective. I didn't need to be sold on the first movie. A version of Neon Genesis Evangelion where the animation budget doesn't go to hell would have been a good thing. I had to recalibrate my expectations when I saw the second one and realized how different the rebuilds would be. Depending upon how you slice it, 3.33 was either too different or too familiar. I honestly don't know how to feel about the next one. They are well placed to actually spin off this time, and yet I can't help but notice that Shinji is once again being dragged around in a helpless state. If 3 plus 1 is just a worse retread of End of Evangelion, well, in that instance, at least we still have the originals. Thanks for wasting some time with me. Bum, ba bum bum bum, ba bum bum bum, da 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 da, bum ba bum, do do do, bum ba ba bum, da da da.